Chapter 4. The Oracle sees two futures. The Oracle dreamed of fire, not the obedient flame of temple braziers, steady, contained, respectful of its boundaries, nor the warm flicker of hearth light, curling around iron and stone. This fire did not warm. It devoured. It climbed spires and cracked bowels, licked scripture from marble, and burned prayers into smoke before they could rise. It was fire without reverence, without patience, without memory. Lady Arienne dreamed of Emberfall burning. She saw the city as it had stood for centuries, terraces carved into the mountainside like steps toward the heavens, gardens fed by glacial streams, white stone catching the sun in gentle brilliance. She saw it crack and blacken, towers collapsing inward, sacred bells ringing not in warning but in agony. She saw people running, clutching children and relics alike, their faith unraveling faster than the flames could consume it. And she dreamed of herself standing untouched at its center, not triumphant, not protected, simply left. She woke with a gasp that tore from her throat, lungs seizing as though she had truly inhaled ash. Her body jolted upright in the narrow bed, linen sheets tangled around her legs, heart hammering so violently. She pressed a hand to her chest, in instinctive fear it might tear free. For several long breaths, she could not tell whether she was awake or still trapped in the dream's afterimage. Her vision swam, the edges of the sanctum wavering as if the stone itself were uncertain of its shape. The scent of smoke lingered in her nostrils, sharp and acrid, though she knew there was no fire. The sanctum resolved itself slowly. Pale dawnlight filtered through high-arched windows, casting long bands of gold across the stone floor. Incense smoke clung faintly to the air, a remnant of night prayers spoken by rote more than faith. A water clock ticked softly near the door, each measured drop an accusation of time passing regardless of prophecy or dread. Above her, crystal lenses hung from the ceiling on delicate chains. They were ancient devices, older than Emberfall itself, artifacts designed to refract divine visions, to break revelation into angles the mortal mind could survive. They had done nothing. The dream did not fade with waking. It settled heavy and persistent, like ash after a firestorm, unseen but everywhere. Arienne sat motionless, eyes fixed on the far wall, waiting for the familiar ebb of divine aftershock. For decades, visions had followed a rhythm she understood. Impact, disorientation, clarity, release. Pain gave way to meaning. Meaning gave way to calm. This time the calm did not come. Instead, the divine stream trembled. She felt it not as a voice or image, but as pressure, like a vast river upstream had been dammed and was now slamming against its bounds, forcing itself into channels never meant to carry it. The light no longer flowed in harmony. It collided with itself, surged, recoiled, fractured. For the first time since she had been chosen as Oracle, Lady Arienne was afraid to open herself fully to the gods. That realization frightened her more than any vision. Slowly, deliberately, she swung her legs over the side of the bed and pressed her bare feet to the cold stone floor. The chill bit sharply, grounding her in the physical world. Stone, weight, breath. "You are here," she whispered, a mantra learned long ago when her earliest visions had nearly broken her. "You are still here." Her hands trembled as she reached for the carved bedpost to steady herself. The tremor was new, unwelcome. It spoke of weakness she had never allowed herself to acknowledge. Once visions left her hollow but serene, emptied and refilled in equal measure. Now they scraped her raw, hollowed her without replenishment. as though something essential had been taken and not returned. She rose and crossed the sanctum, long white sleeves brushing her ankles. Outside the windows, Emberfall lay quiet beneath the early mist. The city clung to the mountainside in wide terraces of pale stone and flowering gardens, its temples crowned with silver domes that caught the first light of dawn. Emberfall had been built deliberately far from the tribunal's seat of power. Arienne knew this because she had memorized the original founding texts, those not quietly revised or clarified in later centuries. The Oracle was never meant to belong to any one order. She was meant to stand at a crossroads, reachable by many paths, answerable to none. In its earliest days, Emberfall had been a refuge as much as a sanctuary. Pilgrims came not merely for answers, but for respite, from kings, from wars, from gods who spoke too loudly and demanded too much. The Oracle was meant to temper divinity, not amplify it, and over time that distance had narrowed. The tribunal had arrived first as guardians, then as counselors, then as authorities who spoke for the gods when the gods grew silent. Each step had been justified. Each concession had been reasonable. Safety required structure. Structure required hierarchy. Until the Oracle herself had become an instrument, instead of a witness. Bells would ring soon. Pilgrims would gather. Priests would prepare the hall. People would look to her for certainty. She had none to give. Arienne pressed her palm against the cool glass. "They are converging," she whispered. The words did not feel prophetic. They felt inevitable. She remembered her first vision. She'd been 33, old for an oracle, according to tradition. Oracles were usually taken young, before identity hardened, before certainty set roots too deep. But Arienne had been chosen anyway, pulled from a quiet life of scholarship and temple service with no warning. The light had not asked. It never did. She remembered kneeling in the lesser shrine, cataloging votive offerings when the air thickened and the world went silent, not empty but held, as though reality itself had paused to listen. She remembered the warmth, the terrible clarity, the sensation of being seen all the way through, not judged, not praised, simply known. She remembered thinking with distant calm, so this is how it ends. Instead, it had been how everything began. In those early years, the visions came clean and sharp. Difficult truths, yes, but never contradictory. The gods disagreed among themselves, but their voices harmonized in the end. Judgment tempered mercy. Order balanced growth. That balance was gone. Now the gods spoke past one another, and something else spoke through them. A soft knock sounded at the door, 3 quick taps, then a pause. "Lady Arienne," came a young voice, tight with concern. "Are you awake?" Arienne exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "Yes," she said. "Come in, Lysa." The door opened quietly, and Lysa Emberwood slipped inside carrying a shallow ceramic bowl cupped in both hands. Steam rose from it in fragrant curls. Ginger, juniper, and ash leaf, a stabilizing draught meant to ease headaches and steady trembling hands. Lysa took in the room in a single glance. The unmade bed, the untouched candles, the Oracle standing barefoot by the window. "You didn't call for me," Lysa said. "I felt something." Arienne managed a tired smile. "You always do." Lysa set the bowl down. "You cried out," she said softly. Not loudly, just enough. Arienne closed her eyes. "So it begins." Lysa stiffened. "What begins?" Arienne lowered herself carefully into the chair by the window. "The convergence," Lysa swallowed. That's not a word you use lightly. No, Arienne said. Nor should anyone. She accepted the bowl. Her fingers shook. Lisa noticed immediately and steadied it. Their fingers brushed, heat flaring instinctively across Lisa's skin, her magic responding to distress like a living thing. You're shaking, Lisa said. Arienne took a sip. The taste grounded her, sharp, bitter, real. I saw him, she said. Lisa's breath caught. Who? A paladin. Lots of paladins. Not like this one. Arienne met her eyes. In one vision, she said slowly. He kneels before me. Her fingers tightened around the bowl. In the other, he kills me. The words fell into the room like broken glass. Lysa stared. That's not possible. It is, Arienne said, because both futures are real. She closed her eyes, letting the images rise again, not as flashes, but as crushing weight. I saw two paths, she continued. Two versions of the same man standing at the same crossroads. What makes them different? Lisa whispered. Arienne opened her eyes as choice. Lisa shook her head. Paladins don't choose. That, Arienne said gently, is a lie we have told ourselves. She leaned back, gaze distant. In one future, he obeys without question. He does what he's told because he believes obedience is righteousness, because he believes the light cannot lie. Her voice trembled. In that future, he weeps even as he strikes, and the light says nothing. Lysa's fists clenched. And the other future? Arienne met her gaze. In the other, he refuses. The divine stream surged violently. Pain exploded behind Arienne's eyes as the room dissolved into blinding radiance. And this time it did not relent. The light did not strike and retreat. It pulled. She felt herself torn loose from the sanctum, flung outward into something vast and unstable. Images overlapped and refused to settle. She saw Emberfall burning, then whole, then burning again. She saw the radiant tribunal's spires cracking, their eternal flames guttering and dying, not extinguished by force but starved. She saw paladins arguing in frightened streets, swords lowered not in mercy but in confusion. Then the vision narrowed. She saw him, not as symbol, not as executioner, as a man. Kalen Dawnspear stood alone in a white corridor, helm tucked beneath one arm, sword still at his side. His posture was rigid with discipline, yet strained, like metal bent too far. His face was worn, eyes too old for his years, jaw marked by a faint scar half hidden by stubble. In one future, he knelt. Forgive me, he whispered, voice breaking as he obeyed what he could not bear. He did not look at her when he struck. The light did not stop him. In the other future, the corridor fell away. Kalen stood in a vast, empty expanse of pale light. His sword lay at his feet, placed there deliberately. His hands were empty. Say it again, he demanded, not pleading, but challenging. I will not do this, he said. Not until I understand why. The silence that followed was terrible, not empty. Watching, Arienne felt something stir beyond the vision, vast and constrained, like a buried star pressing against its cage. The futures overlapped. One obedient, one condemned, one broken, one free. The light surged again, furious, and something else pushed back, not with force, with presence. The pressure eased just enough for her to breathe. Arienne screamed as the vision broke. Lady Arienne! Lysa shouted, catching her as she sagged. Heat flared instinctively from Lysa's skin. Something lingered, cold, ancient, watchful. Then it withdrew. The room snapped back into stillness. That wasn't the light, Lysa said fiercely. No! Arienne agreed. It wears the light's shadow. By mid-morning, Emberfall was awake. The Oracle Hall filled with murmured voices and bowed heads. Arienne stood behind the veil, the weight of belief pressing down like armor she could no longer wear. She stepped forward when the bell rang. The light answered, briefly. Then it fractured. She spoke anyway. "Do not mistake silence for abandonment," she said. "The light is not a chain, it is a call." Behind the veil, her hands shook uncontrollably. "You narrowed the futures," Lysa whispered afterward. "Yes," Arienne replied. "I had to." That afternoon, Arienne descended into the inner sanctum. The divine stream crashed into her. She saw many oracles, chains of light, Solon's decree. There shall be only one oracle, and she shall speak with one voice. "They broke truth," Arienne whispered. "So it would fit inside obedience." The stream trembled. Regret. Night found Arienne walking Emberfall's terraces alone. "How many times," she whispered, "did I make this easier for you?" No answer came. She did not mistake silence for condemnation. Just before dawn, the crystal lenses chimed. A road, a rider. "So," Arienne whispered, "you're close." Dawn rose over Emberfall. Somewhere a paladin rode toward a choice the gods themselves feared. And for the first time in her long service, the Oracle of Emberfall smiled. Not because she knew what would happen, but because, at last, someone else would choose.